the system is prioritizing individuals. Should we consider changing the system? We talk about the bridge metaphor.
Science sisters, they're here to talk.
If you don't do that, then it's a failure.
What are some toxic things in academia?
If someone is being an abusive PI, I will never find out. Try to end on a happy point because well, let me get my list.
Science sisters, let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Science Sisters. I'm your host, Iris van Zelst, and today I'm talking to Federico Munch, who is a postdoc at Berkeley, and we are going to be talking about toxic academia and what we can do to solve it. So, Fede, what are some toxic things in academia?
Well, let me get my list. So one interesting thing of having the chance of living in different countries and experiencing different institutions, right, is you can see very different systems, right? So there are groups that they are very pyramid based, right, in which you have the professor, right, and a bunch of researchers, postdocs, and the postdocs take care of the PhDs. Whereas in other systems, you have maybe like a smaller group, but it's more like concentric. Everything goes through the PI or the advisor. And it's interesting because different group dynamics have positive aspects and negative aspects, and finding that is interesting. One thing that is really what's been in my head for a while now is that different institutions, they tend to hire, they interview people because they're very good at science, because they're really good, very good science. But then once they become part of the faculty, they are asked now now you actually you should do. You should teach, you should mentor students, you should get funding, you should participate in all these administrative duties, and that adds a lot of burden for one person to carry in a way. And at the same time, we are humans, you can be good at 1, 2, 3 things maybe, but it's very hard to actually be outstanding on everything. Right.
Yes.
At least if I want to give a good talk, I need to spend a week working on it to make it decent. But in general, my feeling is that the system is prioritizing like individuals, right? Instead of maybe trying to create teams. Like, what if you would have one person that is really good at doing coding, have one other person that is fantastic at identifying what are relevant scientific problems and maybe new ways of approaching them, and there's another person that is fantastic at actually communicating that either to the community or to the public.
Yes.
But the question is, how do we create that type of environment in a way, right?
I know. I 100% agree with you. If the teamwork it's also so much nicer, because instead of being in competition with everyone, you're all bringing each other to greater heights and achieving something that none of you could have achieved alone. And I like that so much more. So I'm with you. Let's make a team.
I'm glad. But the thing is, and to me, that's where things get kind of interesting as well, because in order to be, so there are two things. Like, first of all, is we need to train people to be team players, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you're measuring your success or failure based on the things you accomplish, and helping others to accomplish things doesn't really add to your table directly, right? Like, if you spend all your research time working on other people's projects, but then that doesn't manifest into publications or anything that the system values, then how do you balance that in a way, right? Because you can be a team player and help all these people, but there's going to be a moment in which you're going to be evaluated for your work, and if you have nothing to show for the time you spend, how do you do that, right? And that's sort of that is a challenge, because at least during my PhD training, you work on your project, right? And you have a lot of really fantastic, really clever people that they actually help you, but they bring their superpowers to your project and to help you, which that's not yet, being a team player. You're just like, you're getting help from all these people. So transitioning to actually being there for others and being able to, in a way, creating the room for people to bring up ideas and to discuss them and not to smash them, too fast. Yeah, to me, there are skills that we don't, or at least I'm trying to develop, but I didn't have. But that's where things get, like, there is space for hope in that sense. Because, so when I was in Zurich, I went to a conference/workshop in Bern called We Scientists Shape Science. And the whole idea was that and it's true, it's like we are the scientific community, right? It's like, essentially, we are the people who are reviewing papers. We are writing papers. We are reviewing the papers.
Yes.
Right. We are attending conferences, and we are writing grants, and eventually we're going to be people. Although at least the ones of us who go to positions of power, they're going to be the ones reviewing grants. Choosing which projects get funded, hiring faculty, or deciding who goes, who joins a faculty at a place. So there is hope in a way to bring a different mindset and a different way of doing things. as soon as, that's what we used to call it with my housemate, we used to talk about the bridge metaphor. So the whole idea, is okay, we are, you're on point A and you want to get to point B, and in order to get there, you need to cross the bridge. So in this case, you essentially, if you're going to get a permanent position, you need to cross the bridge, right?
Okay.
But the bridge is very unstable, it's very chaotic, has a lot of holes, right? So it's a pain in the to cross the bridge. So it's like you could be sometimes, you have to make jumps, sometimes you need to build something to like be able to go forward, and eventually, if you are lucky and work enough, you might be able to get to the other side, right? Now the question is, once you get to the other side, you realize, okay, this bridge is just insane. Shall we build a new bridge, right? But then if you start talking to the people who cross the side, it's like, no, but we had to go through all that, so let them go through the same thing as well.
Exactly.
Right? So that's when things get tricky. Right?
Plus, also kind of related to your bridge analogy, maybe the only people that make it over the bridge are a specific type of people that are happy with that bridge.
But maybe that's something that I've been thinking lately, right? That, maybe we are not the generation that changes academia, but we can set the basis for the next generation that might do something better, right? So, and it's a continuous evolution, right? So it's maybe that's our role to play. We just change things, we might not build a new bridge, but we might be the people who propose to build a new bridge and start coming up with some ideas on how to change. And in 40 years from now, maybe there is a new generation that takes the ball and move it forward. And maybe that's the best that we can achieve with our or in our professional careers. Like even to me, for example, by now I think half of my friends, they decided to pursue different paths than the academic path, and that, for example, triggers in me a lot of thoughts of like, why these all these clever people that are very capable of doing things, why do they choose those decisions? Right?
Yeah.
Chose or make those paths, and most cases it has to do with life choices, and that people want to have a different lifestyle.
It's the settling down debate, basically.
Exactly. But yeah, so then it's like in a way, those people. And I hate to use the word living, because there's not the room that you're living. Like you just change careers. But these people changing careers might help essentially point, okay, there is a problem, and maybe that's our role. Maybe some of us, we keep swimming, and at some point realize, no, this is not for me, and you go away, and that might lead other people to think, okay, wait, if we have all these very capable and very clever people, that they're just flying away somewhere else, should we maybe consider changing the system? I remember having conversations of, because from time to time you meet these kind of legends, right? They wrote 5 papers during their PhDs, or 7 papers, or they did this fantastic nature or science thing, and then right after the PhD they just left academia, right? They changed careers, and then the comment that comes from a professor is like, oh, I don't understand why they did that, because they had so much potential, and they could have done so much more. And that's when you realize that, oh, actually, if you have potential, you can use that potential in many different ways, and maybe you are much happier doing research at the private institution where you feel appreciated in a different manner. And the other thought that I've been having actually is that, because okay, so the thing is, as an individual, I have the experience that I only have my PhD postdoc life experience. But if you think of the people we know, we have friends in different institutions that they had different paths, right? Mm-hmm. And they've seen things that worked and didn't work in different places. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I've been thinking lately is whether it's possible to actually, combine all that information. Like if we start to dream of, okay, if we could reinvent the system, if we could reinvent the academic system, what are the bits that we want to keep? Because not the entire system is not rotten. We are producing good science and good academics and good people. So it's not that we have to just throw away the system as itself, right? But if we could have to do the mental exercise of reinventing, of coming up with a new one, what are the bits that we want to keep, and what are the bits that we would change, right? And in that sense, the fact that we all, that we work with different people in different institutions, and say, oh, actually, no, at Oxford we do this and it works really well, or in this place we do that and actually it doesn't work at all. But understanding that, right, it might help. So that's something I don't know how to implement it yet, but I've been thinking for a while now, like to sort of have a forum, or a call with the people that to sort of share experiences, right? And or what kind of resources, for example, you could create in order to either to improve things or to make the playground more balanced, right? Because you have this situation in academia, right? That is, it's like, some of the institutions that they end up doing the what you would call the highest impact research, they happen to be in places with a lot of resources, right?
Yes.
So they can afford paying very good, hiring very good people, having very fancy instruments, either like lab or doing very fancy field work. So it's not just that there's just 20 institutions that they can do really good science, and the rest they do what they can. It's that you do the best you can with the resources you have. Right?
Yeah.
So the question is, how could we maybe share those resources a bit more, right? Yeah, that's something I'm curious if you could, again, somehow like gather all this collective information, right? Even of the people who end up making a different career choice, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, maybe you can sort of have a database of, okay, what are the reasons why people leave, right? Or why people, decide to change path. And if we start to see a pattern on there, we say, okay, maybe we need to reconsider. Possibly. And then, it comes, then to me comes the other challenge that is like, maybe not everyone wants to be the captain of a ship.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not everyone wants to be the PI or the team leader, but they would be happy to be part of a team and to work in a team, right? So the question is then, how do we create either positions or funding schemes that help for that? It's sort of interesting when you talk to mainstream academics, right? And you tell them that maybe you don't see yourself as a PI, there is this expectation that, but that's the only goal, that's the ultimate goal, that's, if you don't do that, then it's a failure, right? And that's a very dangerous thought, because like they are, like, at least for me, it's not that there is like the best way of doing things, it's the best way for you, and sometimes it's the best way for you at a particular moment in life. So just saying that, this is the only option that is valid, all the other ones are not, they are less. It's a very dangerous way to approach, it's a strange mentality to have. So the way we communicate in that sense is sort of very important, right? Because one thing that I've noticed, this is very silly, but there was a moment in which I'm not on any social media, but the only sort of social media that I have is ResearchGate. I just have it as to get updates on publications, right? But the thing is, it's very interesting because it does create a bit of, in a way, it plays the same role as, at least for me, as the anxiety that it essentially, the use of some of these platforms, it created the same anxiety as I was when I was using Facebook or another type of social media, in which you go in there and you get these notifications. Oh, this person at this place, they published this stuff, and this person at this other place, they published this other stuff, and this person published this other stuff. And then at some point it's like, oh boy, I haven't produced anything, and I'm not near to get a piece of work done so soon, right? And it's the same thing as the Instagram effect, because people post a picture when they are on holidays or when they are looking fantastic, right? They post a highlight basically, right? But you have no idea what happened in between the highlights, or actually how even they got to that highlight. And that gives you, that can be very demoralizing if you're just consuming highlights, right? And it's okay, everyone else is doing better than me.
Yeah, this is also why I always get really depressed when I look at other people's CVs. I'm like, oh God, I might as well quit now.
Well, but that's why I'm saying, like, maybe, we do have a role to play in the sense of, because, okay, I'm very happy that, when you get a paper out, you want to promote it, and you might post it on, Twitter and Facebook, on whatever, platform you want to use. But also we should be aware that we're at the same time creating anxiety for other people on that, right? But, it's, if the only people who have the attention, right? If we as a community, we invite people as speakers when they get a Nature paper, when they get a high impact paper, or we only sort of celebrate and point out the moment when people publish, we're missing the point, right? Because the whole thing is, we're doing this because of the learning and essentially the whole idea is to solve the scientific problem and the process of how you solve it, actually. Because I have this thing that, you go to conferences, right? And you meet all these, grad students and chat discuss science, and then you meet them again a year later or 2 years later at another conference. But in between, sometimes you have no idea what is happening with them. And, some of them, they're going through they can go through a very hard time or abusive relationship with their advisors and so on. And part of the reason why that happens, to me at least, is because that information doesn't get out. Like, if someone is being an abusive PI in France, I will never find out if I'm in the US or if I'm in Switzerland, right? So I had a very naive idea of trying to create essentially a Slack workspace, a Slack group of PhD students from all over the world, working on different topics in neurosciences, with the idea that you can share resources. So you had a question, You could, you're a geodynamitist and you have a question about your chemistry, right? And you can post it in there and have your fellows basically maybe point you to papers and help you out without feeling that you're being judged or that your potential bosses might be seeing what you're posting, which might happen with another type of platforms. And then just had the idea of there is someone that is there's a PI that is being abusive, or there is some like inappropriate behavior at one institution. If everyone else at all the institutions in the world didn't know about it, it's a different game.
Yeah.
Half of the PhD students or 80% of the PhD students of this person never finished their PhDs. Oh, it must be a problem with the PhD students, not with the PI.
Yeah.
And that information usually stays in an institution. You only hear about those stories when you go to a place or if you know someone who works there, right? But it's very specific. So if there would be a way that we can share all that information, all those stories, right? Because what happened to me the first year of PhD or 9 months or so, I started and then, everyone seemed, I had no idea what I was doing, right? I was thinking, topics, right? And you're learning new things and new country and everything. But everyone seemed to have their shit together, right? They seemed to be knowing what they were doing. And as you were saying, things seem to be going well. But then, at some point I realized it's just a matter of like people, they were just not talking about it, right? Because there was this like implicit expectation, again, created by all of us.
Yeah.
Right? That like, if you ended up in this top level place, you must be clever, and therefore, you should be able to deal with your problems,
and,
because you're clever enough. If you cannot deal with them, it's because you're not good enough, right?
Yeah, and you must like this because you just moved country and that's exciting. It's not hard. No, it's exciting and you should love it. And it's like...
Exactly. It's really, and again, it's very, once if you get into your PhD or any work experience, right, thinking that, this is going to be like a piece of cake and it's going to be fine and so on and so forth. And then the first time you encounter these challenges, the first thing is, okay, maybe there's something wrong with me, right? Maybe this is not for me and which gets you in even a deeper hole. But if somehow you realize that this is a process, or someone tells you that this is a process that everyone goes through because it's part of your, again, personal and professional development in some strange way, at least you might be able to navigate in a different way, not putting it or not being so hard to yourself. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my hope of like, because as you said, once you start talking to people and sharing how you feel, you realize that a lot of other people feel the same way. But if you don't start talking about it, it seems that everyone else is doing fine. And I don't know, but for me, it's, and again, there've been, crossing the bridge is a very uncertain, and it can be a very scary process. It has also like very beautiful moments as well, and very beautiful opportunities. The fact that we are talking, you were born in literally opposite side of the world and we are having a conversation, and we're actually also living in different sides of the world and we're having a conversation. It's incredible, right? And none of us is actually communicating in some native language. It's pretty beautiful. So it has a lot of positive things, has a lot of negative things, but hopefully we can use the negative things to try to do something better. I don't know what that is, but the hope that I have now is that at least experience that you collect, right, during your PhD, your postdoc, and your subsequent work experiences, you will carry them with you, right? You're adding tools to your toolkit. So wherever you go, the next people you meet and the next team you're part of, they're going to benefit from that, and you're going to learn from them. And maybe, eventually, if you become a team leader and a group leader, maybe you have a chance to support this, more these team players type of thing, or more, create a more horizontal group dynamic, for example.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the best we can do.
Yeah. Okay, so
we should try to end on a happy point because we went down.
I mean, it's been an absolute great conversation. Thank you very much. I think one of the key points is that just talking about all these things will hopefully, plant a seed that can grow into something, and we'll see how far it gets.
And sharing actually experiences at work, the models that actually work, might also help, right? So I think if we can find a way to share ideas, from people in different institutions. So I think that to me is my only way my only hope that we might be able to, because going back to the bridge analogy, is like building a bridge takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of people. It's not a one-person job, so we need to get as many people involved as possible. And also one thing that is important to keep in mind is that we don't all need to agree on everything. I mean, as soon as we all agree that we need a new bridge and that this bridge needs to have room for different, or should cover different aspects and different means of transportation, each of us can focus on different aspects of the bridge, but we don't have to, I guess my point is that in order to have a shared vision, we don't need to agree on all the details. We can figure out the details as we go through and as we learn all together. But the first step is to gather all these people that we are seeing the same, we have the same questions and concerns about the system. And it's like, okay, can we as a combined force do something together?
Yes, together against toxic academia.
Hopefully.
Well, yeah, let's end it there for today.
Let me get my sword and shield now.
We can start demonstrating.
Yes. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. Well, if you want to learn something more about Fede, he's apparently not on social media, but I'm sure there is a link to some of his things somewhere in the description. And if you liked this episode of Science Sisters, like and subscribe. For now, thank you very much for being here, and bye!
Bye-bye. Sorry, it's gonna be a long editing off record. Sorry for cutting the thing, but it's sorry for football, because I need to bring my Argentinian background somehow into the conversation.
Okay, we did it, Fede.